So I'd like to introduce you to Abby Moore. Please say hi, Abby.
Hi guys, good evening.
There you go. And Crystal Mignoni as well. Please say hi, Crystal.
Hi, good evening, good morning, wherever part of the world you're in.
That's right. So we have a lot of people from different countries, and I'm really excited that this is branched out and open and has been inviting enough for multiple people. You're going to have a chance to get to meet some other people in some chat rooms once we get about midway through the session. So you'll have that opportunity to meet, collaborate, and have some adult twirling conversation. All right. So first we want to start off, two-baton is a very special event. It is an event that is separate from one-baton. So during our chat room session that we briefly had while we were waiting, we had some great comments that were given to us. We had equal balance, right and left hand. Spatial awareness. We had interrelationship, pattern, timing. I'm going to speak about timing today as well because it definitely requires a lot of good timing. That is different from one baton. And we don't always think about timing in multiple batons. I have balance. I'm assuming right and left hand balance, but also balance within the different modes. We're gonna be able to see some examples with that part too. And two that I really like too. A good focus and a good sense of courage. Definitely lots of courage. So those of you that provided some of those key parts in the chat, I appreciate that. All right, so I want to start off with one of my objectives is simply to identify the difference between a one baton trick or one baton element being demonstrated and a two baton. So first, obviously two baton requires a pair of batons, so that means two. Let's think about some other things that come in pairs. A pair of chopsticks. Chopsticks don't work unless there's a pair. It has a direct purpose. You need two for it to serve its purpose and for it to be valid. And they have to work together. If that timing isn't working and that timing isn't well, then they're not going to be very effective. Let's take a bicycle, two wheels. One of those tires goes flat or even becomes deflated. That bicycle is not going to operate with a very good flow. It's either going to A, be challenging, or it's stopping. If you think about two batons, same thing happens. If one of those batons stops, the flow stops, the timing stops, and it loses its validity. Let's take a pair of crutches. Just like chopsticks, bicycles, or these batons, an operator is needed, and they are the driving force artistically and creatively in how they're used. We don't normally think of two baton or three baton, any multiple baton, as having an artistic feel or creativity. It can and it should if they're being used together and properly. We have a bicycle. However, how it's being used, it can be artistic and it can be creative. As a judge, we have to determine how that creativity is being used and and how that driver operates that equipment. Here's our crutches. We can evaluate how it's not just there, doesn't have a basic use. It has creativity and it has artistic value brought to it. So our first thing is to identify if these things are being used together as two and for a good use. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit on behalf of, from a coaching perspective, a little bit on behalf of a judging perspective. It was kind of in my information that I sent out prior. I wanted to open this up so that it could be collaboratively, discussed, managed in both modes. So I'll speak in a little bit of both terms, not just hopefully in just one judge or coach manner. Because I feel like when you have an understanding of how something is taught, how it works, it helps out in both modes. All right, so I'm going to show you a video clip, and in this video clip, I want you to identify, is this a two-baton event, two-baton trick? Okay, I'll show the video. I'll let you see it a second time, just so that you're getting used to seeing the video clips through this mode. Here we go. Okay, so now that you saw this aerial trick, again, the question is evaluate, is this a two-baton trick? This is a yes or no question. So I'll show it one more time just in case. Okay, so as we're a judge, we need to be thinking, and we need to recognize this and say, okay, yeah, that was a high toss double. But what was that second baton doing? Refer back to that crutch, that chopstick, that wheel on the bicycle. What was that second baton doing? It was idle. It was like that flat tire on the bike or the deflated tire on the bike. It ends. That is not a two-baton trick. Okay, let's view another one. Okay, is that a two-baton trick?
No.
No, it's not. So we often see this in the aerial mode, and today I'm just focusing on the aerial and the roll mode just for sake of time. Okay, so evaluating that, we see this in the aerial mode all the time. A big trick comes in, second baton's dead. It's not a two-baton trick. And as judges, we need to say that's not okay, and we need to have the courage to say we're not going to reward it, because if we reward it, that's what's going to be perpetuated. That's what's going to always be encouraged. And I think now flipping to a coach's view, I think what happens sometimes is that when an athlete is starting in that beginner mode with two-baton, as a coach, they're thinking, I need to get this athlete to get the baton up in the air. We need to do this. Okay, so they go to the skill, what does my beginner have? Okay, so they may say, do a high toss, illusion pass. And I think that happens in the beginner level because it's getting the baton up. However, from a coach's standpoint, sometimes they get stuck to where they're not developing in the intermediate mode of integrating that second baton. And so once, if they can do a double illusion, that second baton should be doing something. So I think that from the coach's perspective, that's what happens. But from the judge's standpoint, we need to say and take a stance, this is not a two-baton trick. We should not be rewarding this. All right, before I switch to the roll mode, I want to pause and see if there are any questions before I move out of this part of the aerial mode. Okay. All right. So now, once you evaluate yes or no, if that's a two-baton aerial, then we're going to break it down and look at 3 different topics. 1, look at their technical proficiency. There is technique that is involved in multiple batons, not just body, but pattern, release, strength within the wrist. Second is to look at the entrance, the setup to the aerial, and then how they resolve or exit out of the aerial. So these 3 things, and the reason why I give you these 3 topics is because as judges, I think that when it comes to like a 1-baton program, we're able to sit back, encompass a whole presentation, a whole performance, and we kind of do a little bit more of an overview, package view, where I think multiple batons, well, in 1 baton, the baton and the body are blended together. When the body moves, usually the baton moves. And it's usually all within one. But in multiple batons, you have split. You got body and you got two other apparatuses, and sometimes they do go in different directions. So I think that from a judge's perspective, it is important that we continuously talk our way through this, talk our way through a performance, and that we keep up with what we see and what's going on. Okay, so technical proficiency, entrance, and resolution. All right, so this is going to, what you're going to see next is a high and a low aerial. Again, proficiency, entrance, and exit. Okay, again, I'm going to now call your attention to her release and her setup. Okay. All right, so she sets up. We can break down body, we can break down the release, the crossover, the toss from the end of the baton. But I just want to take the two-baton technicality in the sense that she does a left backhand and then a right thumb toss. I'm going to take that concept and go to our next performer. Now this next performer, just to give you a heads up from a viewer perspective, she's going to continuously face the back, so we are viewing her from the back side. However, still evaluate her entrance and her exit and her proficiency. Okay, so she's set up with the head catch. Now again, I'm going to ask for you to look at her release and her entrance. Okay, how is her entrance and release different from the first girl? Okay, first girl did right hand, left hand. Second girl did right hand, pass, right hand. So as a judge, it's not okay for us to just simply say they both did a high-low 3. Look at the entrance. To go from a right hand to a left hand, the timing there is a slight difference timing. There is a little bit of an easier moment to go from right to left to where the batons pass in a little bit different of a pattern. To go from a right hand to a right hand, if you think about it, first baton is going up, second baton is going up, and there's a slight different risk in the pattern that they go up. So that right hand pass, right hand is a different timing than a right and left. A right requires more from the right wrist strength to be able to pass and get a good quick snap off. There is a difference in that technique from athlete number 1 and athlete number 2. The technical proficiency is going to be stronger in athlete number 2. So as a judge, you need to look at how are those releases? Are they the same? And because some athletes will be comfortable in the right, left, and they stick with that. Some have variety, and that's good. We want to be able to reward that and notice it as well. All right, so staying in the high-low mode, now we're going to watch going up another step, entrance. Now look at the release and the exit, this one. Here we go. Okay, so there is risk on the entrance. All right, does the high-low trick, and then has blend continuing into the next thing. I'll show you one more time. So she comes from a back throw. Just kidding, let me try this again. Back throw, high, low. Okay, and then continues on, adding on to from there. Okay. All right, so far I'm checking to see if we have any questions. I'm going to move out of the aerial mode and into the roll mode. Okay, Del, you have a question for us?
Let me unmute. Can you hear me?
And yes.
For several years ago, I can't even remember when it was now, but I was at a seminar and the clinician said to us that the higher level two-baton you go will have more absence of passes. Okay, so that's in contradiction to what you said about that high-low. So can you speak to that a little bit? Do you know what I'm saying?
You said it has less passes. What do you mean passes, like in the batons passes?
Well, you said that it was a higher level to do a high-low spin trick with 2 right-hand releases, as opposed to the first girl who did a right-hand release and a left-hand release. You said that it required greater timing. Is that what you said?
Yes, it does require.
But did you mean that that's a higher level move from a judge's perspective if it's a pass as opposed to a non-pass? Because that's what I'm kind of getting at. Because when I think of two-baton without passes, that's always stuck in my head when this clinician said, you know, the more proficient you become with two-baton, the less passes that will occur.
Oh, you're talking about this pass.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Like a matched hand pass before a toss, like the second girl did on her aerial trick.
no, I mean, I still think, whenever I teach right, I can get a kid to do a right, left, easy, no problem. Getting a kid to do a right pass right, they have to be careful. They have to pass tighter. If they're tossing at the end, it's going to be harder to get that toss off. So if you think about going from here.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying that there's that slight break and hesitation because usually they're thinking about the higher toss when they make that second pass to go into it. So yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with that.
But also when you take a beginner and you teach them, because when you're teaching, this is a good discussion for the coach's perspective here, that whenever you're teaching this kid to go from high low, instead of just expecting them to go toss toss, you need to teach from here that wrist twist lift straight from a pass, because it does take some strength in a wrist, and for them to build that from here, boom, and to be able to get that nice quick on top of the thumb release. So I think it's still, I know whenever I've had to teach, from a two thumb flip, the high and then the placement of that low, and have that pass and have that to where it's fluid. And like you said, to where they're not going pause and release, it is a different training to be able to go right and left and be able to get this flow. Usually the kids can get that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
All I'm asking is that from the judge's perspective, is look at the athlete's setup. If they are constantly doing right, left, and that is a normal setup for them, notice that is they're limiting their box and their setup versus, I'm good with saying right, left, and then another trick they're doing right. They're showing me variety. They can show me, that's kind of like what we call adding to their vocabulary. It's good that they can do it both ways and not be just standard in one development.
So your issue with that was that you were just bringing to us the differences in timing, and you weren't saying that one was actually better than the other or a higher level, really. It just depends, right?
I think certainly. I think it just depends, but I also wanted to compare and contrast these two more so to build the fact that as judges, we need to not just say, oh, they both did high-low threes.
Exactly. Okay.
No, they didn't. In theory, they both did high-low threes, but look at that setup. Look at the release. And is that release their choice of releases for their whole program, because that's how they're more strongly developed as an athlete or as a two-batoner.
Okay.
Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Del. Yes.
Ron, I was just walking about with Dale, so I wonder if you were understanding if both releases are from the right hand, then it's harder on the tracking. But then we also want ambidexterity and using both left and right. And so sometimes if you do right, then left, catch right, you have to have some tracking on those things as well.
Sure.
So I can understand like it's a tracking problem there, but then if you do all your aerials with all the right, passing and always throwing right, the judges are going to pick them, say you're not doing any releases with your left.
Absolutely. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Again, tracking back to, you know, from the judge's mentality, think about what is that athlete's setup? Is it consistent? Ultimately, you're right. We want them to show variety.
Sure.
Variety goes, you know, shows that they've been developed. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to go into the roll mode. The roll mode is one of those modes that we're often, you know, I know as coaches struggle, like how to take what an athlete is strong and is able to do and integrate that into two batons and it not be a one baton section. So it is a struggle. It is something that we see often. So we're going to now address that. Okay, so in the roll mode, we're going to look at evaluating the pair. We'll watch a piece of this. I'll kind of pause it, talk through it. So here we go. Let's see how this one. Okay, cut back with the loop, comes back around, does the pop, one turn. The second baton, it's there, but how is it interrelated or dependent in the roll mode? Let's continue. Oh no, it's probably going to start. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at what she showed us. She can do independently, both cutbacks. She can do a drop in. She did 2 sets of pops. She did a singular reverse cut. She showed us everything that she can do. We took away that second baton, those rolls would still stand as a one baton roll section. So, and then, oh, I'm sorry. And then she does come around at the end with the 2 front necks. So we have to look at that and say, we can't say that this is an integrated 2 baton roll section. It's not. Second baton gone, that roll section can go in somebody's solo. Now, in the beginner level, maybe in that early stages of intermediate, we may see this because as a coach, they're probably looking at their athlete and saying, okay, I still need to perhaps build this athlete's rolls in both the right hand and the left hand, because being able to roll in right and left hand when it comes to 2 baton, they need to be able to do in both hands, right fishtail, left fishtail, you know, forward, reverse, and they've got to be able to have that roll vocabulary in both the right hand and the left hand. It becomes important. So we may see something like this a little bit more obvious in the beginner level where they're doing a roll with a figure 8, because at that moment, that's where they are. And so as a judge, we have to expect to see that at the beginner level, that it is hard for them to do a fishtail and a figure 8 at the same time, or to do the cutback with the loop and to have the timing and the pivot. As a beginner, that is difficult to get that timing together. But at the same time, if we take this athlete, she has the skills. She can do right and left hand. she should be doing more with that second baton other than it just being a loop or a figure 8. She's capable of more. Okay. So when we go into the roll mode, we expect to see rolling as a pair, where the baton, both batons are rolling at the same time, both in and out. So that means the baton is rolling close to the body as well as out into extensions, whether it be a layout or into a retraction roll. That builds, and that's going to develop that athlete, and that shows that they've been trained in that capacity. Also a high-low. This athlete we just viewed, there was no high-low built in either. And then an ability to blend from one roll to another. I think I kind of want to go back and track on my beginner statement where I said, you know, we may see them do fishtail with the figure 8. Granted, at the beginner level, they can do 2 hand rolls together. That would be rolling at the same time. So I do want to say at the beginner, we're not only going to, you know, that we won't see simultaneous rolls, but we definitely can. Okay. All right, so let's look at a roll section that is going to have all of these pieces that we should expect to see as a judge. Again, even at our intermediates, you know, our lower level, she's going to be, you know, more advanced. But you'll see over here I have those 4 things, those 4 profiles that we would hope to see in a well-structured, developed athlete in their roll section. Okay. Okay. So I'll pause it. Okay, so already she has gone out and out. So the baton has rolled close and also in the extended mode. And again, a beginner can still do an elbow roll layout. So, but this is a more advanced approach. Oh no, sorry guys. All right, high-low into the connected elbows, and then she's blending into another roll. And then into another high-low. So she's more advanced, so she's blending a lot of rolls together. But at the same time, if we were to segment that, that can still be segmented into the intermediate and lower levels to build towards this. All right. Okay, so in our aerial and in our roll mode, either way, it is our responsibility as judges to evaluate constantly. Talk our way through it. We can't just sit back and in the end say, oh, they did a high-low 3, they did a toss-toss reverse solution. But to still just continuously track it and to kind of, whether it be mental notes or dialogue within yourself, track what they're doing and evaluate, yes, that's a two-baton. If it's not a two-baton skill, then we as judges have to recognize that, and we have to hold that to a level of standard, because if not, we're going to lose the event. And we want to make sure that the event stays valid and that those two batons are constantly working to support each other, even at the lower stages, and then of course all the way through the advanced stage. Okay, so at this point in time, I think we are we're going to be watching a whole performance all the way through so that you can take the skills that we just discussed, watch the whole performance, and again, track your way through her performance. If you would like to take notes, whether it be on paper or mental notes, after we watch her performance, we're going to go into breakout sessions and have some conversation about it. So you see a few notes on your screen, like we've done so far. Evaluate the use of pair of batons, her strengths, and her weaknesses. All right, I think we'll be able to view this as a whole group. In your email, I had doubted myself if this is going to be effective, but I think we'll be okay. All right, so here we go with our full-length performance. Okay, so going into the breakout group, let's talk about what you're going to see just from a technical standpoint. So you're going to go into a group chat. Abby will be leading one group, Crystal will be leading another, and they're going to guide the discussion. Leave yourself on mute, please. However, unmute yourself when you would like to participate in the dialogue. You'll see a message come through from me that will say something like 1 minute, and then you'll come back to this main session. You may see a blue button that says join, so anytime you're ready to come back to the whole group, just click on that button there, okay? All right. Okay, here we go. See y'all soon.
Hey, everybody. Wait a couple more minutes to get everybody in. Awesome. All right, looks like good. Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're just gonna start with the basic, just was she doing the event? And this is when you guys can unmute yourself, give us whatever fabulous feedback you have. We're gonna start with basic, was she doing the two-baton event? So if you wanna chime in, I see lots of head nods, thumbs up. We do all think she was doing the event, yes, and she was. I think some of the examples we saw earlier, the bits and pieces, they weren't really doing the event, holding the baton during the rolls or the aerials. This for sure, she was using both batons at the same time, equally at sometimes not, and we'll talk about that in a second, but just she was doing the event for sure. All right, so let's start with strengths. So if someone can chime in, you can unmute yourself. What do you believe was her strength or strengths in this routine?
Did you say strengths or weakness?
Yes, sir. Yes. What was a positive? Her strengths.
Uh,
I saw you unmuted yourself. You're on, girl.
Okay, I thought her strength was her contact material and her variety of catches.
Okay. Good. What else?
I actually thought she had great ambidexterity, so good use of left and right hand.
Thank you. Yes.
Ainsley also commented what I was going to say. She's very balanced in both the right and the left, and she is very confident in that program that she performed. There was, I mean, yes, she had a couple of errors, but there's not any time that she was like afraid to toss that baton during her program.
Okay, good. I think that definitely she felt confident. You could see the confidence in her, and it made you confident. You know, as a judge, and you can sit back and just relax. You have that confidence, and she brought that through for sure. Any other strengths that you guys saw during that routine? Okay, we can move on to her weaknesses. All right, what were some of her or several or any of her weaknesses that you saw throughout the routine?
Well, first of all, I thought that, am I on?
Yes, you are, Ron. We gotcha.
And the roles were not many combos type things. It was isolated, right and then the left type thing, but there was no really type of a combo. I think a lot of the weaknesses are lower body work because it was causing some problems of the patterns and the planes because of the body work.
Okay, good. Very much, yes. Anybody else? What are some other weaknesses that you saw?
I thought that for her level, she should have used more planes and a little bit more use of counter direction, because she did, I think, one little trick with counter direction, but not enough for her level.
Right. So the opposition, like I said, there's one little contact material that was opposition, and that was about it. So yeah, I agree with that for sure. Any other weaknesses that we saw throughout?
Can I talk?
Please.
Hey, well, I actually thought her strength in that aerial mode led to her weakness in her rolls, because her rolls were all aerial based. It was toss a baton and here's a roll I can do. So she didn't do any of those tight rolls like we just saw Danielle perform.
Yep.
So I thought that's where she was lacking.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep, it does. Absolutely. I think that's when we go back to the roll isolation. They weren't blended. There, you didn't see the high and the low, the in and the out that Amanda had talked about. It was, we pretty much just saw it could have been, you could tell that was definitely her weakest mode. If you guys, would you agree that that was her weakest mode, was her rolls? And what would you think was her best mode? Or did she have a best mode?
I'm gonna say better.
Flow out there. I'll say, I think her contact, I thought her contact, she had good variety. She had nice tight contact. I thought that she looked more confident when she was doing her contact material. Her aerial, she did have a variety of catches, but I thought she was almost safe with them. They were pretty high. So she had that lag time. She had let me wait for a second. And I think Rana mentioned the lower body. She used her lower body almost as a crutch that she kind of plied every time she caught. Her transitions weren't at ease as she was doing those. So she did have some great variety, but the height of those tosses kind of gave the risk factor went away because it was almost predictable. She's coming down with her catch and we knew she was going to do a easier follow through with the height of that toss. Okay. Any other comments, strengths, weaknesses, things you wish you would have seen, not seen?
I thought those wraps that she used at one point were pretty creative. It's not like something that I see all the time. Yeah. So I appreciate that as a judge.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd like to see, as they're going up in the higher levels, uniqueness. It's not the tailored routine that we see or tailored order. You see a little, you go, oh, that was nice. Okay, that was new. And so those are nice moments. And she did have that, I think, especially with her contact material. All right, anybody else?
Yeah, she did have a lot of ups and downs. On, very weak on some things, and all of a sudden a couple of very good things above with her other skills were, and so all the way through, different proficiency throughout. Was it equal?
Yeah.
All the way through. I don't know whether I didn't feel that. I think you said that she was feeling comfortable while she was throwing. I wasn't sure about that.
Okay. And I think at some moment, I think for sure there were, like you said, there's highs and lows. There were sometimes, especially when you could tell sometimes when she was coming up like, okay, this is a difficult aerial or this is a difficult part. But I think for the most part, she felt confident in the routine. I think sometimes when you watch them, you're holding your breath because you're like, okay, she may or may not know how to do this. She may not catch this. I think she had the confidence that she was going to be able to execute the elements. But yeah, I think there was highs and lows for sure. And I think we saw that throughout. Anybody else?
I thought she had less confidence and control in her flat section than she did in her vertical, and I thought she had more pattern problems with her flats as well.
Right. I think we talked about, I think Ella was saying, we want to see at that level, you want to see the different planes, you want to see the different variations. And like you said, the flat, the vertical, the different patterns. There wasn't a whole lot of that. I think she definitely was in that front plane a lot, and she was in the vertical mode a lot. So you want to see, as we're going up in the upper echelon, you want to see that variety. All right, anybody else?
Are we going to be able to see her again?
Probably, I'm trying to think, do we see it again? We don't. So, but I think in your little, which is a good thing, if you want to go see it again, it's in that email that Amanda sent us. But we're going to head back, and then we're going to kind of wrap up. And if you guys want to share again, please do so when we get to that main room. All right, see you in a second.
Okay, so I'd like to hear what each group, 3 points that you felt like your group provided to, so that we can see what each group thought some of the strengths and the weaknesses were. So Crystal, if you don't mind, will you start us off first?
Sure. So things that my group thought about this athlete, her effective use of the pair of batons. She had a lot of I, and she had a lot of good timing. Her strengths included things like double release, particularly because she did it flat and vertical and from 1 and 2 hands. Her contact material and her use of planes. She has a few growth opportunities, including maybe streamlining that opening trick to a stronger 2-baton demand, work on integrating the second baton into the rolls, and possibly stepping away from that back catch throughout maybe the second half of the program. So those were our thoughts.
They always have a level of comfortability.
They like a certain catch. Yeah.
Yep. Very good points. They're very strong. I can agree with those. That sounds like that was some great discussion. All right, Abby.
We had some similar ones, I think a little bit different as well. We definitely agreed her contact material was a strength of hers. Ansley has said her ambidexterity was really, we could see that throughout. We thought one of her weaknesses was her planes. I think someone of our had mentioned that we thought the use of planes wasn't quite there, especially at that level. We wanted to see a little bit higher, different variety of planes. The catches, I think, was something that we had said as well. That definitely could have been something to work on. We agreed that the weakness was the isolated, the rolls were more isolated. We didn't see, like the list that you had on the side, we didn't see the in and out, we didn't see the high-low. We definitely had the use of the high baton throughout those rolls. So, but everything else, I think I'm trying to look at my notes, pretty much the same as you guys.
Sounds great. Yeah, I agree with y'all. I'm glad you picked up that her contact material was her strength. I know I did not speak about the contact material today, but that was definitely her strength. Weak on the rolls. I felt like when we talk, or one of the things in the technique, her releases and her timing of the 2 batons is very fluid. She's not struggling, one hand's not waiting for the other to come around. Like they're pretty in sync, and she does have a very good flow, and that's what makes her contact material mode her strongest mode. Once the baton goes high, I think I had heard someone speak whenever I was kind of jumping chat rooms, that in that high aerial mode, you can see her comfort level change. She was comfortable with batons in and close to her, but once they left the body, she did not have that comfortability level. Timing on the tosses, over tossing, you can call it that if you'd like. But definitely you can see her, you can not see the same comfortability level as that contact material, which is a good signal. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the conversation that you got to have into your breakout rooms. And it sounds like you guys took the components that we spoke about today and y'all really applied them and were able to evaluate all of those processes there. So it's great to hear that. All right. So we are going to wrap up. And I want to say that whether you're a coach or a judge, I hope that you got lots of good information and feedback from today's sessions, and you were able to meet some new people in your breakout groups as well. I am going to be looking for some feedback myself, because that's how we get better, and that's how we always learn and grow. So there was a link. Give me one second. in your information that I sent out to you. Here we go. For you to give us some feedback. I also have put it in the chat room. So if you go to the chat box down at the bottom, you'll see a link. You can copy it, highlight it, copy it, paste it, and then that'll be an opportunity for you to give us some feedback. Our future sessions that we're gonna have is next week will be 3-baton. Again, it's gonna be Webinar Wednesday. We've made it a tradition, part of our new normal. And I'll be doing that 3-baton session. May 6th will be solo. Crystal will be leading that. And May 13th will be Artistic Twirl led by Abby. So thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to see some twirling friends. And best of luck to all of you. And I hope to see y'all back next week.
One thing before you go.
Yes, Ron.
The other April 29, May 6th, and what was the other one?
May 13th?
13th. Do we have to go in to be able to go to that the next time, or is that automatically because we have them now?
We plan to use the same system that we did in preparation for this. So you will see on Sunday will be the advertisement release through USTA's website. You will sign up through Google Forms, just like you did on this two-baton webinar. I'll send you.
Not USTA website, Facebook.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, I said website. You're right. Thank you, Crystal. The social media that USTA uses, it was on Instagram, is also on Facebook too. So you'll fill out the Google form just like you did to sign up for this one. I'll send you the link to join in Zoom, exactly the same. We plan to keep the same format.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Ron. I'll stay connected if you want to stay to ask some independent questions. I'll be here and be ready for you.